Hello, and welcome to another story and another video in my One Company, One Story series. This time, Graphene Manufacturing Company, GMGMF. Here comes the amateur legalese. I began investing in companies and their stocks in the late 70s, but I'm not a certified investment professional. My style and history of investing is described in Dream, Invest, Live, a book I wrote by request, which came out as the Great Recession began. So, don't underestimate luck. Oops. I am not an investment professional. This is not financial advice. I'm just really curious about companies and what folks are doing with them. And of course, if it's a good investment, I'll consider it. Graphene, the wonder material. Oh, that's what I wanted to point out. I just thought it was funny. I said graphene, the wonder material, and then here I come. I look at their website and they go, "Oh, the carbon wonder product." So we are in agreement there. It's an Australian firm. The Graphene Manufacturing Group is, and they're producing things like batteries, lubricants, and HVAC materials. None of those are why I've followed the development of graphene, but they're an example of the diversity of applications for graphene. Early market projections for innovative technologies frequently get things wrong. PCs were supposed to be great in the kitchen because cooks could track their recipes, but you're watching this on a computer that has nothing to do with that. It can do that and it can do so much more. But, these things come along and we adapt, and folks take advantage of what they see is a possibility, which has really been pretty cool. Graphene is a wonder product, and I think that's what I'm seeing here. We're showing here in the background of this graphic. I'm not sure, but it's frequently shown more like this. It is a hexagonal grid of carbon atoms. Now, I don't think this is an actual photo, but it does represent the fact that instead of being a clump of elements that make up a molecule, a chemical, it's a single sheet. These are all just carbon atoms that link up together into one large thing of carbon atoms. Now, keep in mind, so is a diamond, and a diamond is a really tough thing. So we're going to get to that. So graphene may be a wonder product, but cue puns about wondering what, if anything, is actually going to happen with it because it's been around for, well, a long time, but it's not been revolutionizing markets the way it could have, and yet it might. Graphene is a form of carbon that sounds exotic, but it actually can occur accidentally. Go into its history and you can find folks finding it in things like candle wicks and things like that. I followed its progress because of its strength and conductivity capabilities. Graphene can be incredibly strong and light because it can be a single sheet of atoms like this. You silly thing. There you go. Trying to break it is not a case of like when you try to break, well, like a piece of steel. There's going to be a flaw in the crystalline structure and that'll crack. Potentially, you can make a crystal go on for a long, long time, but graphene could do that and be incredibly light. It's only one sheet. It can be as thin as one atom thin. So trying to break graphene is not simply breaking chemical bonds, but actually molecular bonds. Theoretical, it could be one molecule thick and very thin, very wide and very deep. It can be harder to break, like I said, than a cluster of molecules. And even steel isn't as tough. Even diamonds aren't as tough. Graphene is analogous, similar to, but not exactly analogous to a diamond, as thin as an atom, but again, without limit in width and length. I'm fascinated to see how it'll change the world. I particularly want to have a roof of the stuff. Imagine having a roof that wouldn't break and wouldn't leak. Marvelous stuff. But no one's trying that I know of. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go back here to Graphene Manufacturing Group's page. They seem to benefit. Graphene Manufacturing Group's products are benefiting from the fact that it is graphene that has some phenomenal properties. I'm not listing them all here. But rather than trying to create massive sheets of the stuff, they are coming up with things that are more practical. And that is why batteries and lubricants and HVAC coatings. Of course, it's maybe hard to produce a large sheet of it, but they're able to produce volumes of the stuff, kind of like a jar of the stuff. And go to their website for more details and other applications, but for now, I'll describe my understanding of the batteries. And let's see where that is. That's right there. Okay, cool. Gotta admit though, showing pictures of batteries are not exactly, really visually appealing. Sorry about that, folks. But basically, lithium ion batteries are ruling the world. That's why there's so much of the world is now cordless and electrified. Unfortunately, lithium ion batteries use uncommon materials, and in the case of graphene, it's just carbon. And the lithium ion batteries can get hot, hence a few fires, and something to keep in mind with laptops and electric vehicles, and things like that. It's one of the problems that they have with taking uh, batteries of such ilk up onto the space station and airplanes and things like that. They can catch fire. Of course, anything can catch fire, and it's all a matter of degree. But if you look at some of these things that they've got here, they're faster charging, much faster charging, like a factor of 70, I believe. I end up repeating that, I think, somewhat. But it is the sort of thing that if you look at how ubiquitous lithium ion batteries are, think about replacing even just a fraction of that. Well, great ideas don't always work. Batteries alone can batteries have already revolutionized much of the world. And these folks have an opportunity to take this to another level, which is pretty cool. Of course, many innovative companies can, or at least hope to, revolutionize the world. Some do. Many don't, because of failures in the technology, practical limits, mismanagement, mistimed launches, or other things, or other combinations of those things. Great ideas don't always work. Of course, when they do, it can be worth being associated with them. As for the investment side of things, their stock price looks like a lot of startups. Where'd you go here? There you go. It's all in red. It looks like a lot of startups because it's bouncy and trending down until revenues drive it up. And then startups also end up this issue with gotta make money, spend money to make money, which means that prior to launch you can end up with greater cash flow problems just before you start making money. I don't know if that's going to happen here, but I know that the stock price is not exactly acting like the money's already flowing in. So the stock price looks like a lot of startups, and yet it's hard to really verify. This is only a couple years worth of data, really, so there's not much history to go on here. Also, keep in mind that this is not an American company. Now, I'm not saying American companies are the only ones. That does not invalidate the value of the company, but it does complicate investing for some U.S. investors. Nothing else, attending a stockholders meeting can be a bit more involved. Fun, but more involved. They're still a small company, but that's how these things start. It has growth potential, but that is not readily apparent in the price. They also have tough competition. It would be a surprise if mega corporations weren't also testing and creating such products. Granted, these folks have been able to do so, which is one testament to how commonly available and replicable graphene can be, at least in a lab sense. But that also doesn't keep the big ones from doing the very same thing. And of course, then scaling with all the capabilities that they've already got in place. I haven't analyzed that competition. It's too big a task for this post, but it's something to be aware of. It also suggests that one consequence will be a buyout if they become too competitive from the perspective of the megacorps. So this can be a high risk reward investment, but it can also be high maintenance, just because the complications of having that stock. As for market growth, I go back to looking around at the ubiquity of electric vehicles and tools, and the commentary of having enough storage for wind and solar. These are not niche markets. This is reasons for growth. This is demonstrations of demand, and that's a fertile place for a company to be. I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope they survive and thrive, and I'll be watching. I don't know if you will, but we do these things. That's what investment's about.